Hello friends, I am Shilpa Wagh. In this session, we are going to talk about balancing financial risks and reaping good rewards. We all know that financial journey requires lot of financial products, and all financial products has some inherent risks, and some of them are also affected by the external risks. Some of the inherent risks can be volatility, liquidity, credit, and some of the external risks are like unstable political situations, acts of God. The question arises in this situation is whether to avoid the risk totally. Can we afford that? Can we ignore the risk and just put our money wherever we want to because we feel that there is no other respite? Or is it a good way? Is there a good way to find out how to manage the risk with taking informed decisions? So, in this session, we are primarily going to talk about those measures which can help us manage the risks and take good informed decisions in our lives. Okay, so let's move ahead. So, what are we going to learn in today's session? We are going to dwell into once again the loss mindset, the behavioral bias that we were talking about all the while, and the high risk decisions, how it is impacting the high risk decisions. We are then going to ask this question, as I just spoke about, whether we should ignore the risk, whether we should avoid the risk totally, or are there any good ways to manage the risks. Then we are going to see how to balance the risk, because we all know risk and reward goes hand in hand. Okay? It is always said that higher the risk, higher the reward. What is the meaning of this? Suppose you go to a nationalized bank. Nationalized bank has FD rate as 7.2%. Okay? And a credit society has FD rate as 10%. Why do you think there is a difference between the rate of interest? The very fact that credit society is giving you more returns, that means it is giving you more reward, that means there is more risk involved. Okay? The very fact that more returns are given, more risk is involved. Okay? That is why it always goes hand in hand. Higher the risk, higher the reward. Or in other words, higher the reward, higher the risk. And so we have to be watchful when we can see some financial products which are giving undue extra income to us. We have to question from where these returns are coming and whether it is a safe investment to make. Okay, so that is what we are going to do. And then if we have to manage the risks, what are the strategies we can employ so that we can take informed decisions and protect our interest to the extent possible. Okay, now the question is, a coin will be tossed and irrespective of the outcome, you will win 500 rupees. And the option 2, a coin will be tossed. If head comes, you will win 1000 rupees. Otherwise, you get nothing. Most often, which option will be selected and why? We have seen behavioral biases. Okay? What do you see here in option 1? Option 1 gives you guaranteed return. Okay? And option 2, there is a possibility of loss. what have we seen in behavioral biases? Loss aversion. Okay, we are more sad to lose than, you know, getting something smaller. Now that's why most often we will select option 1 because the loss is less. At least I am gaining something all the while, correct? Now let us change the situation little bit. What is option 1? Coin will be tossed, irrespective of the outcome, you will lose 500. And a coin will be tossed, if head comes up, you lose 1000, else you lose nothing. See, the situation is now different. If a coin is tossed, irrespective of the outcome, you are going to lose 500. Okay? A coin will be tossed. If the head comes, you will lose 1000. If tail comes, you lose nothing. Okay? Now here, what is happening? Loss is guaranteed. Okay? In earlier case, what happened? Income was guaranteed. Okay? In this case, loss is guaranteed, and because of which we will select option 2 because there is a probability of gain here. Because if tail comes, I lose nothing. Okay? Now this is the loss aversion mindset of us, and all the decisions normally that we take are based on this methodology of our thinking process. Okay? Loss aversion, as we had said, that prevents us from taking rational decisions. Now this is very important. We may gather all the data, we may have all the information with us, but when emotional thing comes in the picture like loss aversion, it is difficult for us to take the rational decisions. Loss impacts us more than the gain. Okay? So when there was guaranteed loss, we will not take that option. We will take an option which will have some possibility of not losing things. Okay? We take risk to avoid loss. That is what we are talking about, right? Okay. Now let us take this case. Amar, Akbar, Anthony, all the three of them want to invest 5,000 rupees a month. The option given to Amar is option 1, the bank deposit with 7.2% return, or a mutual fund with plus or minus 15% of the return. Now let us see how Amar will think about this. What is the possibility of permanent or you can say guaranteed return? This is the investment with guaranteed income because it is a fixed deposit and he will always get 7.2%. What is happening in this case? He may get 15% also, but he may lose 15% as well. And what have we seen? We have seen the loss is more painful than the gain. So we would avoid the pain. So what will he do? He will select option 1 because there is a guaranteed income into it. Let us see what Akbar options he has. He has a NBFC deposit with 7.2% return and a bank deposit with 8.5% return. Obviously, this is a very straight case. 8.5% is more than 7.2%. So, the gain is more, and so Akbar will select this option. Let us go to Anthony. Now, Anthony is more interested into mutual funds. So, either it is ELSS or it is mutual funds. Returns, ELSS returns are plus or minus 15%, mutual fund is plus or minus 20%. So, there is a possibility that ELSS will give him anywhere between 15% to minus 15% returns, and this mutual fund will give him 20% to minus 20% return. Okay, what is he doing? Obviously, possibility of loss is more in mutual fund than ELSS, and hence he will choose ELSS even if he knows that this mutual fund has a possibility of earning more. So, this is how the loss aversion mindset works. Okay. Now, these decisions are not based on any calculations. We have not used any techniques or technology to assess. It is purely on the biases, behavioral biases. Now, let us take another situation. There are two stocks. One is stock A, another is stock B. 15% of the time the stock was trading at 110 rupees, 20% of the time stock A was trading at 105, 30% of the time it was trading at 100 rupees, 20% of the time it was trading at 95, 15% of the time it was trading at 90. As far as stock B is concerned, 10% of the time it was trading at 300, 20% of the time it was trading at 250, 40% of the time it was trading at 200, and 20% of the time it was trading at 150, 10% of the time it was trading at 100. Now, we have to select between A and B. How do we do that? Which stock is more risky? Now, just by merely saying that this stock can go from 90 to 110 and this stock can go from 100 to 300 is not going to help me solve my problem. So, is there any more scientific way of predicting whether stock A is more riskier or stock B is more riskier? Okay. So, to help us, there is one technique which is called measure of risk. Okay. Or you can call it is called the standard deviation. Let us understand the concept of standard deviation first. Okay, the concept is something like this. If you take a large sample, okay, normally the distribution is like this of a large sample. This is the mean, okay. This is the mean, you can say M. That is the average. Mean is nothing but, we can say in our language, it is an average. So, most often that particular stock A or stock B, what is the average trading price? M is the average trading price. So, in reality what happens? Sometimes the price is here, sometimes it is here, sometimes it has gone up, okay, sometimes it is here. That means what is happening? This price is not exactly at the mean, but it is moving away from the mean. This is called volatility. Okay. The price is always volatile. It will move from mean either on the lesser side or on the higher side. Okay. We have seen that 10% of the time the stock B was trading at 300 rupees, sometimes it was at 250, sometimes it was at 100. Okay. That means it is moving around. What is standard deviation? Standard deviation gives us a measure of volatility. So, how volatile? So, when market is going up or market is going down, what will be the impact on the price of this particular stock? Okay, how volatile it will be, how up and down it will go from the medium or the mean, right? So, that is what is called a standard deviation. Higher the standard deviation, higher the risk. So, if this particular distance from the mean to the price, okay, if it is somewhere nearby, okay, so entire volatility is somewhere here, Okay. As compared to that, if the prices are actually moving to this range, okay, obviously orange colored stock is more volatile than the green one, okay, because the diversity is more. It can go high, but it can go low also. So those who are not ready to take more risk should not get into the orange colored stock. Okay, those who want stability should get into the green colored stock because the volatility is less, right? So standard deviation is the measure for volatility. Now let us apply this measure to stock A and stock B to find out what is the standard deviation of both A and B, right? This is the formula. We need not get much concerned about this. Sigma is equal to square root of summation of Pi, that is the probability, within bracket the value minus the mean square. Okay. If we put this into a table, what is the probability given here? Now we are doing this for stock A. Okay. The probabilities are listed here. These are the values, the value of the stock, correct? So 15% of the time it is 110, 20% of the time it is 105, 30% of the time it is 100, okay. Now what are we doing? Pi into Xi. So 15% into 110, 20% into 105. So we are getting Pi into Xi. Then we are finding Xi minus mu. What was mu? Mu is nothing but the mean, okay. We have seen in previous slide, mu is equal to Pi into Xi. Okay. So we have calculated that, we have taken square of this, and Pi into Xi minus mu the whole square is actually giving you the standard deviation. So standard deviation of stock A is 6.32. Okay. We have taken square root of 40, correct. So that is what we have got. Now let us go to stock B. Stock B, again we have plotted all the values and we have found out 36.25, the square root of the same is 60.21. Okay. Now let us compare the two values. Sigma A, sigma in the sense standard deviation. So standard deviation of A is 6.32 and standard deviation of B is 60.21. So as a result, we can see that sigma of B is much more than A. So who is riskier? Obviously, stock B is more risky than stock A. Okay. Now this is the calculation we have to do in order to understand which of the stocks are more risky. Okay. Now this is one of the tools or technique which can be employed to judge whether I should invest in stock A or stock B. Again, as I said, higher the risk, higher the return. Okay. So the possibility of you getting more returns may be high for B, but the volatility is high. So you have to decide if you are not so much for risky kind of a stock, should rather go for stock A. Okay. But the question is now this, we know that the risk is there, risk is not going anywhere. Should I ignore the risk? Should I avoid the risk or should I manage the risk? Okay. What if I ignore the risk? I can get into severe losses. So I don't do all this calculation. I say that this calculation is too tedious. I don't want to get into it. I will just buy whichever stock comes to my mind. What am I doing? I am ignoring the market risk. Okay. If that is the case, then I might get into severe losses. What other things I can do? I can avoid the risk. I'll not invest in stock market at all. I'll stick to FD only. But then what am I doing? I am losing the opportunity to earn more in the long run. Okay. Equity market is the market which is regulated by SEBI, and it can actually give us higher returns if we stay invested for a long time. But if I avoid it, I am losing that opportunity to grow my wealth. By growing my wealth, I can actually get many pleasures in life, which I am foregoing if I avoid that risk. So, I cannot avoid equity market. So, what is the option for me? I have to manage the risk and make informed decisions. So, I have to learn tools and techniques by which I can judge the volatility, I can judge my own risk appetite, I can judge the time frame for which I can stay invested, and based on all these things, then I can decide where I want to invest. Okay. So, what is the answer to the question whether I should avoid the risk, whether I should ignore the risk or manage the risk? The answer is, please manage your risk and take informed decisions. Okay. Now that we have understood various risks and we have seen that we have to manage the risks, we have to understand what all different risks are possible and what is the meaning of that. So, we will talk about three very important risks. Okay. The first one is the credit or default risk, then we have liquidity risk, and we have interest rate risk, which is pertaining to market. Okay. So, let us go one by one. What is the meaning of credit risk? Risk that borrower may not pay. So, when you invest your money somewhere, what are you doing? When you invest your money somewhere, actually you are giving a loan to the person. For example, when you are investing your money in an FD, actually you are giving your money on loan to the bank, and the FD rate interest that you are earning is nothing but bank is giving you interest for giving your money. Similarly, when you invest in any kind of a corporate FD or any kind of a bond, you are giving your money to the company as a loan. So, they are the borrowers. They are the borrowers of your money, and in return they are giving you interest. Now, what if that borrower runs away and you are not getting your money at all when you are supposed to get it? That is credit risk. So, suppose you have taken a bond from a company for 5 years. At the end of the 5 years, the maturity has to come to you. But in 5 years, that company has gone bankrupt. That company is no more. It's not able to give you any money. You lost your money. Okay? So, you have got subjected to credit risk. So, is there anybody who can actually tell us before investing whether this company is trustworthy? What is the assurance that probability of I getting my money is much higher, because I want to deal with only such companies? So, there are organizations, they are called credit rating agencies, okay, like CRISIL, ICRA, CARE. What they do? All these companies are rated whenever they come out with any issue, whenever they publicly ask for money, the state of these companies are rated by these companies, credit rating companies, based on various parameters, and they have their own ratings. For example, for long term loans, okay, these are long term bonds. What is the meaning of long term loans? As I said, they are long term bonds, 10-year bonds, 25-year bonds. Okay. They are rated as AAA, AA, A. So, AAA is highest safety. Little less than that is AA, little less than that is A, and still lesser than that is triple B. You should never come below triple B. You should never invest in any bond or any FD which is having a rating less than triple B, irrespective of however better rate of interest they are promising, okay, because the credit worthiness is not good, right. So, for the long term loans or FDs or bonds, this is the rating, and for short term loans it is A1, A2, A3. Nowhere you should come below A3, okay. So, you have to be careful before you invest your money in such bonds. Higher the rating, lower the risk. So, when you are actually investing into long term kind of FDs or long term kind of bonds, you are investing for 25 years, 30 years. So, at the end of it, you want to make sure that those borrowers are still there, correct? And so, you have to go by this rating. Government bonds. Now, this is the or the post office schemes. These are the highest level of security because they are actually guaranteed by government, okay. Lower the rating, higher the risk. So, corporate FDs, credit society deposits, right. Now, these are smaller entities and they are more subject to problems, financial problems, and that is the reason they may have lower credit ratings. But to ask customers or ask investors to invest in them, they may give you higher returns. But you have to be careful to understand whether they are really worth taking that risk. Choose higher rated bonds, AA and above, or when it is short term, please choose A3 and above, okay. So, that is something like towards the credit risk. Liquidity risks. Whenever you need money, you should be able to redeem it. What is the meaning of redeem? You should be able to get the money back. For example, fixed deposit. Is it easy to get your money back into your savings account? Yes. If I have a fixed deposit, I instruct my bank, within 24 hours the money will come to my savings account. So, it is a good liquidity investment product. But what if I have a 10-year tax free bond which is having a lock-in? It is not liquid at all. What about a real estate? Can I sell real estate and get my money in 1 week's time? No. So, the liquidity is poor. So, whenever you invest, you must know what is the time duration for which I may not get this money, okay. And you should identify what are my possible cash flows. What are cash flows? Suppose a person is 35-year-old, okay, and he has 10-year-old son. This is his lifetime, okay. At the age of say 60, he is retiring. What are the cash flows? Okay, 5 years, within 5 years, they want to buy a car. Another 10 years down the line, when his son is going to be 20-year-old, there is education expense. Okay. Another 15 years, they want to buy a house. At the age of 60, he is going to get retired. Now, these are the cash flows. Okay. He has to invest his money in such a way that when the need comes, he has the money readily available. So, what if at this point of time 95% of his money he has invested into say public provident fund, which is a 15-year lock-in? Will he have money for this? Will he have money for this? The answer is no. So, he will face liquidity risk, and that is why please map your investments to cash flow needs. So, step 1, you have to find out what are my outgoings at different point of time in my life. Accordingly, I will select the investments which will get mature or I can redeem at that point of time and there won't be any hassle. That is the way I can conquer the liquidity risk. Okay. This is example of liquidity risk. So, Ram has 10 lakhs of rupees to invest. What are his needs? His need is like 1 lakh he want to keep for medical emergency, 2 lakhs for son's admission, 7 months time, 5 lakhs for home down payment in 2 years time. Okay. What are the investment options he has? 6 month FD offering, 6 months FD offering 5.5 interest, 1 year FD offering 7% interest, 3 year FD offering 7.5, 15 year PPF, 15 year tax free bond. Now let us compare what can be suitable. Do you think the last two investments are of any use to him as far as these three cash flows are concerned? He wants money, 1 lakh as a medical emergency, it can come any time. Do you think PPF or tax free will be helpful for him? 2 lakhs he wants in 7 months. PPF again 15 year lock in, tax free 15 year bond, he has to struggle to get the buyer. 5 lakhs 2 years down the line. So, what can be a good combination of investments for him? Okay. So, what is advisable for him to do? Because he wants this to be available at any point of time, he would rather put 1 lakh into the savings account. Okay. 2 lakhs in 6 months FD because he wants it in 7 months. And 5 lakhs he can either put into 6 months FD and then renew it for the next 2 years, or he can take this 3 years FD and in 2 years whenever he wants the home down payment he can break the FD. The remaining money, because he had 10 lakhs, remaining money can go into the long term investments. Okay. Another risk is market risk. What is market risk? Due to factors impacting overall performance of markets. Interest rate risk is the most important one. Interest rate based on the economy can go up or down. RBI decides to increase or decrease these interest rates. So, based on the repo rate which they declare, the FD rates, the loan rates will fluctuate. Okay. So, if you have invested into say 7% FD and later on the interest rate cycle goes up and now the next 5 years is available at 8%, but you have already invested into the 7% and so you are not able to catch that 8% rate. So, that is the risk you are facing. Okay. Currency risk and commodity risk. Currency is nothing but exchange of our currencies like Indian rupee to dollar, okay, or Indian rupee to pounds, to euros, right. This also fluctuates. Same is true for commodities. There is a commodity market which deals in gold, silver, or even the things like wheat, rice. So, all those are fluctuations, correct. So, they are also the risk to our investment, that is market risk. Now, how do we handle these risks? There are two ways by which we can handle these risks. One is called averaging, another is called asset allocation. Now, what is averaging? Averaging is you invest in a staggered way. For example, I have started mutual fund investment. Okay. In January, I invested 1000 rupees. In February, again I am going to invest 1000 rupees. In March, again I am going to invest 1000 rupees. Okay, so on and so forth. Now, what is averaging? When I am buying in January, the unit rate was 100. So, this is the rate. How many units I have received? I have received 10 units. In the month of February, the rate has come down to 50. So, I have received 20 units. In March, it has gone up to 200. I will receive only 5 units. But now what is happening here? You can see because of the volatility, though my number of units I am getting differently, averaging, so if this continues say for 5 years, okay, I am reducing the impact of this volatility because of the rupee cost averaging, okay. Staggered but disciplined investments, systematic approach and averaging of the cost. That is the approach we do in averaging to beat the risk, okay. This is helpful in market risks. Okay. Another approach is asset allocation. What is the meaning of asset allocation? We have multiple assets classes, okay. We have equity, we have debt, we have real estate, we have gold, okay. We have multiple possibilities of investing our money. What we say is balance the risk versus return. So, do not just go behind equity because in the long term it will give me higher returns. Do not put everything into equity. Do not be overly conservative and invest in debt, okay. Identify the right mix of assets, right. Now, as we know, all these investment classes will have inherent risks. So, equity will be volatility, debt, you know, it may or may not beat the inflation, real estate has liquidity problems, gold has you know, purity problems, right. So, every investment class, investment asset class will have inherent risks. So, depending on our risk appetite, depending on, so 3 things we have to remember. One is our risk appetite, our time frame of the goal and the tax treatment that will be given to this asset class. These 3 aspects are going to decide where I will invest, what will be my asset allocation, okay. The most important is understand your risk appetite, which is also called risk profiling. So, there are institutes, there are so many questionnaires which are available where you can identify what is the risk appetite you have. So, if you think that you are an aggressive risk appetite, against that you can be balanced, against that you can be conservative. So, all the high risk financial assets, what are the high risk financial assets like equity, okay, real estate, medium risk, maybe debt, and lower risk like government bonds, post office, okay. All these things can be lower risk. So, this is a suggested distribution, okay, of where you can do the asset allocation. Like if you are aggressive, definitely you can go for 60% or even 70% of high risk asset classes. But if you are conservative, you better be only 15 to 20% of it. Now, having said that, there is also something called risk capacity. You may be conservative, but you have enough assets, and in that case your capacity can go up. In that case, you may shift yourself to balanced instead of, you know, lower risk profiles. So, this is something one has to judge depending on these 3 parameters: risk, time frame and tax. So, as far as asset allocation is concerned, this is an example we have taken. So, Abhishek is 35 years of age, he wants to invest 5 lakhs. What are his requirements? 50,000. So, we know the value of cash flow, the time frame of the cash flow, 2 lakhs for family function, 3 years time, 1 lakh for starting business in 10 years time, and 1.5 lakh for retirement every year from 60 year onwards. So, how do we do the asset allocation for him? First of all, anything less than 3 years is classified as short term goals. So when we look at his goals, there are 2.5 lakhs necessary for short term, medium term 1 lakh is necessary, long term 1.5 lakh is necessary. That means out of the 5 lakhs he has, short term whenever we have, we cannot go for high risk asset class, we have to go for low risk asset class. For medium term we can go for medium risk, and for long term only we can go for high risk. So what is the solution? 50% of his money, 50% of his money can get into the low risk option, 20% of his money can get into medium risk options, and 30% can go for high risk options. So this is the asset allocation one can suggest. Okay. Again, what are the high risk options? Like equity, medium risk options like FDs or debt mutual funds, and low risk like government schemes or FDs from nationalized banks or postal schemes, right? These are some of the options that person can have for short term. So what we have learned here is loss aversion actually prevents us, even if we have lot of information, but the behavioral bias, the loss aversion actually prevents us from taking rational decisions. So we have to be careful. We cannot ignore, neither we can avoid risks, okay, because ignoring the risk will subject us to severe losses. Avoiding the risk, we will lose the opportunity to gain better rewards. So what we have to do? We have to manage the risk with proper techniques like standard deviation, that is volatility, make informed decisions, and one of the techniques of balancing your risk is a proper asset allocation using your risk appetite, the time frame of the goal. Okay. So this is how you should balance the risk and reap your rewards. Thank you.